What's going on, my super fam? I hope that you guys have been enjoying Not Cry so far. I've been enjoying a bit, playing through the story quest, which is lovely because we did get to meet Columbina, and playing around with Lauma, which is why this video take a bit of time to actually came out, because I wanted to test quite a bit with Lauma, especially when I did actually manage to get a C1 Lauma. Now, to get straight to the point, I know that there has already been many videos out there talking about a C0 level Lauma, kind of especially the team building as well, which is why this video is going to be focusing a slightly bit more onto a C1 Lauma. Though technically speaking, C1 Lauma and C0 Lauma team building isn't too much of a difference, but you can expand quite a bit with a C1 Lauma because of the fact that she has access to healing, which is something that we're going to be discussing. So with that, just sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Lauma and Flint, as well as so many other amazing Not Cry character, is coming pretty soon, and I know that many of you are trying to get them. So if you're planning to swipe for pooling, then don't forget to check out Loot Bar. If you know me, I've been recommending you guys Loot Bar before, since you can always save almost a 25% on all of your top-ups. With over 100,000 orders and so many good reviews at this point, you can be sure that Loot Bar is trustworthy. Here you can see my order receipts of all of my top-ups that I have done. A 6.0 is the anniversary patch. Loot Bar is holding a special discount for the all-in-one bundle, and it's actually a pretty nice discount. Other than that, you will also be able to claim 1.5% coupon as well as 2.3% coupons for the rewards as well. So guys, be sure to check out Loot Bar through the link in my description, as it can be a great way for you to save your money, especially if you are topping up a large amount. Now, before we touch on some of the teams, I won't be going through specifically what Lauma actually do, because that's basically for a build video, and if I go through everything here, it's gonna be a very long video. So what we want to focus on is whether or not C1 Lauma is actually worth it. For me personally, I do feel that C1 Lauma was worth it for me. However, is C1 Lauma actually a needed? I just say absolutely no for the time being. Right, so what C1 basically does is that whenever your team triggers a Lunar Bloom reactions, your active character is going to get healed by 500% of Lauma's EM. Other than that, the stamina cost of her deal form will reduce by 4%, and the maximum duration is extended by a 5 seconds. So technically speaking, the deal form is just like a fun quality of life increase. It doesn't actively help you much, but it does help you a bit more in the overworld traverse, which is kind of nice. But the more important thing is the healing capability. Now, generally speaking, to put the healing capability of Lauma into perspective, is that I would say from my experience of playing around with the C1 Lauma, it is very much enough. Now, is Lauma going to be as good as a dedicated healer, you know, like Kokumi or Baiju out there? But I would just say no, because the rate at which she heals isn't always too consistent, because it does depends on your Lunar Bloom reactions triggering, but it is still more than enough to have her as a sole healer on the team. The only thing you've got to do is to actively avoid being hit by enemies attack too much, and then yeah, obviously you would end up dying, because again, there is still Hyper Bloom and Bloom reactions being triggers on the field here and there. And of course, since it scales 500% of Lauma's EM, a single instance of healing is generally going to be enough for it to be already healing your active character to a maximum already. So yes, the healing generally is really good, and so since it only focuses on healing, it doesn't directly buff the damage of either Lauma or your team. However, you are saving a specific healer slot onto your team building, which is why we are going to be able to focus a lot more into offensive character building whenever you are having a C1 Lauma on the team, which is where we're going to be touching on specific team building. And so touching on Lauma team, obviously it is going to be a Nilu Bloom team. And while obviously Nilu Bloom team is really easy to build, you just have to slap Hydro and Dendro character on her team and she just works, right? And currently the core of Nilu Bloom team right now is still going to be Nilu, Lauma, Nahida, and then another Hydro character, and usually that's going to be Kokumi for many of the team comps. Obviously, if you're more of a free-to-play player, sometimes you'll be using Barbara and some other Hydro characters combinations that will be able to heal on your team. However, with the fact that Lauma is already a C1 where she can heals, and yes, she can sustain you pretty well on the Nilu Bloom team, makes that you can place other characters, you know, specifically like Yelan's probably going to be the best character here in this case. But on my account specifically, my Furina is generally very well built, which is why I do have Furina on the last slot, even though the character on the team won't be be able to benefit too much on specific damage increase of Farina, but Farina herself is still doing insanely good off-field damage, not to mention the HP increase that she's getting from this is team building. Overall, it is a really good team on the account as of the moment, and it's capable of clearing so many different content. Other than that, we do have access to Hyper Bloom teams also being increased, where we have Yelan, Xingqiu, and Kuki Shinobu. As I've mentioned before in some of my other videos, C1 Lauma is generally still the best in a Bloom team because Bloom doesn't always have a dedicated healer, whereas Hyper Bloom we usually have Kuki Shinobu because yes, of course, she is really great at it, especially when it comes to a more free-to-play kind of teams. Yeah, Kuki Shinobu just insanely broken. Now obviously with the fact that Lauma is here, you can still technically replace Kuki Shinobu with a really well-built Raiden Shogun, for example, because again C1 Lauma is already in the healing slot, and you also have a bit of healing from Xingqiu here and there as well. So this team being with Raiden Shogun should be able to sustain really well, and that's lovely to see. And other than that, we also have a Neuvillette team. Funny how Neuvillette is still the character that has his team updated pretty much every single patch whenever a new supportive character just comes, because this guy just works on basically any of the supportive teams, and it's just really fun to see. And this time around we have Farina, Lauma, and Inefa specifically. Now we don't even need a C1 Lauma, but obviously it does help you to sustain a lot better. And well, what can I say apart from this team? Again, still going to be very powerful, making use of both Lunar Bloom and Lunar Charge in a single team, and still having the buff from Farina. Neuvillette is just literally eating good, and it's just feel very nice having him that way. For Bersian team, Lauma Bersian is actually pretty decent. We can have a Yelan, Xingqiu, and a Thoma on this specific team, especially when Lauma is a C1. This team is just even more comfortable to use now, with Xingqiu and Thoma still being able to help you sustain quite a bit, but with the healing, it is generally quite nice. Obviously, Bersian isn't going to be as popular as Hyper Bloom or Bloom, but the team still does work, and I find it very comfortable to use. That if you do want a slight bit of variation, you can have a bit of fun running alongside with Farina, Emily, and Dia. Now, technically speaking, this is not entirely a Bersian team. You're not going to be able to trigger Bersian as consistently as the Thoma team, of course, but what it does is that it kind of makes use of your Emily quite a bit, because it's sad that burning still isn't being utilized to the maximum ever since Emily's got her debut, because Farina doesn't always apply that much hydro application, so we're not going to be having any dendro cores too much on the field for Bersian. So yeah, Lauma isn't going to be able to make the maximum use of her as well, but this can be a fun team for you guys to play around with if you do have a invested Farina, Emily, and a bit more Constellation Dia like on my account. So it's not too bad to play around with this kind of team comps. Other than that, Sino is a character that has a slight bit of buff when Lauma actually came, because in the past Sino just works best with Nahida mostly. You can have Baiju in his team, but obviously Baiju doesn't help you buff that much. Now with the introduction of Lauma, he's making the full use of her. Not to mention, if you have Inefa, you can technically have her on the team as well. So with the fact that Lauma fits into his rotation slightly better than Nahida, especially when it comes to multiple waves of enemies, Lauma is just a lot easier to use with Sino. Obviously Lauma's direct buff to Nahida again, so his team is kind of buffed too. However, for me personally, I still like using my Kuching team, where you can run alongside with Yelan, Farina, and Lauma. Still is a really nice team for us to be playing around with. Sometimes, depending on the situation, especially in the Abyss, you can switch out Yelan with Inefa to have a bit of a Lunar Charge reaction going on as well to deal with the Abyss, and that team flexibility is generally quite nice. Now, Alhaitham as well, I don't have Alhaitham to showcase on this account, but obviously Alhaitham works alongside with Lauma, but you can have Alhaitham, Lauma, Kuki Shinobu, and Yelan, for example, or if you want more free to play, you can have Xingqiu. Obviously, those kind of teams really works well. But overall, those are some of the team comps that we can play around with C1 Lauma. From what I can see at the current point, I know that there are many other team comps potential that we can have a build around. So if you do have any other team comp options, leave it down in the comment section. I always love to discuss with you guys there. So hopefully the video have been fun for you guys. Again, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on my future Genshin videos. With that, I wish you a super day, and I'll catch you on my next video.